What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mystic's MMOs. I'm your host, Mystic Raven. All right, so got some news. I'm kind of poking around, see what's going on with any type of server news or whatever. I bump into this article, only a couple days old actually, published 12 hours ago. Elder Scrolls Online isn't really an MMO, says studio director Matt Firer. Link is in the description below. I recommend you guys take a full gander if you don't want to take my word for it, but I'll get into something here in a minute. But I've tested for Matt when he was back in Mythic during the Warhammer, and Matt is a legend in the gaming industry. He's a legend. I mean, he is. It's a man who knows gaming, I'll tell you that much. But I have one disagreement, but let's read this one quote. Despite Elder Scrolls Online containing many of the trappings of a massively multiplayer online title, the head of ZeniMax Online Studios, Matt Firer, hesitates to give the game that MMO label. The title, developed by ZeniMax Online Studio and published by Bethesda Softworks, both of which now fall under the Microsoft umbrella, first debuted back in 2014. The game is set in Tamriel, which has been depicted throughout the Elder Scrolls franchise, and play is entirely online, with no single-player component. Now, I disagree with this. I've told my kids, I've told many people, you can play ESO as any other Elder Scrolls game. You don't have to do the dungeons. You do not have to do the trials. You do not have to PvP. If you want to just play the story and experience the world and craft, ESO has that experience. So I would disagree with this no single player component. Okay. You can play it as a, just a standalone game if you wanted to. But it is online. It is not, you can't play it without an online access. But so many games are these days. I'm sure you guys have logged in. Even when your internet's down, you can't play a game, right? Who knew that you had to be connected to the net to play a single player game these days? But it's the truth. Why? Because of server hosting. Crazy. Though fans of the series seemed initially unsure of the games, it's whatever. This is just fluff. An interview with The Gamer, ZeniMax Online Studio Director Matt Firer examined the game's journey since launch and surprisingly took a moment to clarify that he does not believe the popular online-only title is really a massive multiplayer online game. Quote, I don't really consider ESO to be an MMO, Firer states after having been asked which MMO outside of the Elder Scrolls Online he most enjoyed. The studio had followed up the unexpected answer by contending that the term has changed so drastically over the years that it is frightened with a lot of definitions. Elder Scrolls Online, Firer argues, does not include the more intense mechanics. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good description there. That are typically found in games of the category. It lacks the tab targeting and mouse movement that might be found in other traditional MMOs. And the game is also not PC only, while most MMOs are trying to cross-platform these days, Final Fantasy XIV being one of those. Or super, now meta players. Meta players. This is Matt's words. Get the fuck over yourselves. Sit down. I told you guys, I can't take the trials in this game serious. I do it for the gear. I beat the builds. I can't take end game in this game serious because it's not super hardcore, which sets it apart in Firer's mind. Not my words. It's the director's words. So meta players, take a seat and stop trying to be toxic. God. Take a seat. Okay, now I will disagree with Matt on one thing. An MMO, by definition, is a multiplayer, massive multiplayer online. Meaning, first off, the game has to be online for people to connect. Massive means more than a few. Meaning you're running around, you're bumping into people everywhere. I don't know. I think Elder Scrolls, you do that. You're running around any zone and you're bumping into people. Seems like a massive experience to me. Multiplayer. Massive means scope. How big? This is a big game. Oh, I take that back. Massive means big. Right? A single player game couldn't possibly accomplish what an MMO is. Massive means huge. That's what this does. Multiplayer. More than a few players. You can't just host your own little, Roblox party or a little Roblox private server or something, right? It's a massive amount of players playing at one time. So within the standard definition of an MMO, this is what ESO is. Though it does have challenges in the game across the spectrum, and it still offers many things that traditional MMOs have, very theme parked elements like dailies and gear. It isn't linear. That's why it's not hardcore. It has no linear progression. It's open-ended. Right? I've argued this for years, though I have first-time players who's never played an MMO argue about BIS and meta and all sorts of fucking ridiculous terminology associated. Now, like I said, in my personal opinion, it is an MMO. No matter how accessible it is, no matter how you play the game, it still has a online experience. Shooters nowadays are becoming more MMO-like, right? So we can see that with, what the heck's that game called? It's now on PC, but it started off on Xbox. But it's now more of an MMO. But it's a shooter game. It's taking on these features. Why? Because of replayability, farming, so on and so forth. Every MMO has a farming experience. Something you grind for. And this game's no exception. Though I've always said, it's a casual game. It's a good game. It's a fun game. There's a lot of content. Great game. Could be the best of all times. But even Matt says it's not super hardcore. Anybody want to comment there, Meta? Wow. But yeah, there's challenges. It's all about team makeup, team design, learning mechanics. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are talented players in this game. Tons of talented players. I'm never going to take that away from you guys. Trust you and me. Even though you're whatever. This is what I would argue with anybody who's ever played any other game. Let's compare it to what it is. Now, like I said, the new mythic items, a lot could argue, and rightfully so, that they would have a BIS title because it is a single item that stats cannot be duplicated. They can't be. And by all definition, that's what best in slot is. It's not a set. If I had a tier 4 set in another MMO, that would not be my best in slot. That's my top tier set. My best in slot is usually something that's not associated with my set bonus that I have to acquire to get my stats to boost up further. And that's why I said the mythic items would, in tradition, have a BIS title. Though we've had gamers in this game refer to BIS as something as simple as a set or a weapon type or something other ignorant shit that comes off the top of their head because they've never experienced another MMO in their fucking life. Like I said, don't take my word for it. Take Mats. No, he's been around for a while. You know, he's been around for a long time. So, yeah. So I'm just gonna say this, man. You know, the game is great, right? If you want to read the rest of the article, feel free to. But the biggest thing I've always taken out of what ESO, you know, is it's always going to be a good game. You know, it's going to be. It's got problems with some things like performance, right? Which we all know to be true. We know that we've had these moments where the game has, you know, had its ups and downs. It's gotten somewhat better over the years. The content has never been questioned. It hasn't been. The developers, the art team, the voice actors, so many things bring this game to life. It does. It really does. Rich and them, you know, I would honestly say that's the strongest element to this world, right? The lore, the, you know, things that will keep you playing it. Even when you walk away from it, you'll end up coming back. Hello. Because there's something that, you know, brings you back to the Elder Scrolls universe, right? And that's memorable, right? That's something special when a game title has, you know, wants you to keep playing it because you want that lore experience, you want the new challenge, you want something, you know, that's evolving. And I feel like this game has definitely gone in the direction of positive changes. And hopefully it gets better. I like I said, minimal. Microsoft, you know, picking up this title or even this IP was brilliant. Honestly, they'll have at least another 5 years minimum before it starts declining. And the reason being, they have to adapt because of the, you know, the generation gaps. You know, it has nothing to do with performance at that point. They could lock down performance and everything, but unless they actually, you know, adapt to the new craze and everything, they're not going to be able to sustain. The average MMO before degradation only lasts about 10 years. ESO has, you know, multi-platform, so. And I would know, I've done the research on this. I have, like I said, I've done the data on all this. You know, I did it for a couple of investors and stuff. So I would say, you know, because of the multi-platform element, it extends itself for another year or two. Easily. It's interesting, man. I'm like, really, Matt? It's not an MMO? I mean, I understand what he's saying, you know, the definition, but whatever. But the thing that struck me the most was when he says, it's not super hardcore. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I agree. These guys wouldn't know what to do with an MMO that you had to spend, I don't know. Imagine being in a trial for 8 hours. Imagine it. 5 hours, right? A little over half your time just clearing trash. They don't know what hardcore is. They just don't. They haven't experienced it. And had they ever experienced that type of grind, that type of frustration, that type of dedication, taking months to acquire gear, not a week or two, you would understand there's no comparison. There isn't. There just isn't. I think the game's great. I think trials are great. If I ask myself, you know, like I said, if I can get competent people to do, you know, trials, yeah, I do my shit. I get my gold, whatever, you know. Question of it is, do I need any sets in there? Can I just put it together for an average player? Because most of the players are what we consider average players. They have lives, they have wives, they have children, they have jobs, right? They don't necessarily want to have to keep dicking with everything. So the question of it is how accessible is the gear, right? How accessible are the builds? And the more you cater to that, that's my target audience, the better off it is. And at the end of the day, my end game's PvP, even with this game. Why? Well, simple, because I mean, I can get the gear normal if I wanted to. Some I will go and vet, some I won't, whatever. I'm not a fluff person anymore. Never was a fluff person, actually. I mean, when I got River of Souls and Rift, my flawless, our shit, we just wanted it. Don't do it, dude. Don't, no. Not worth it. Bro. Not worth it. Great, my savior. Anyways. I'll pass. Anyways, so I just love it because everybody's like, "Oh, you." I'm like, "What are you guys all fucking on? Really?" The piss. Well, shut the fuck up. I'm never going to take a meta player serious. First off, they've been proven wrong too many times by moi. Second, they've never played any other MMOs to ever fucking know. The game's good, though. Always has been. I like Elder Scrolls, man. There's Easter eggs buried throughout this game, too. I really like that, too. But, like, look at DCUA. Look at, Dungeons & Dragons Online. Dungeons & Dragons Online was a complete hub. Like, Guild Wars. But it was considered an MMO. Guild Wars was hub-based. Considered an MMO. Right? So, what I still consider, in my opinion, this still qualifies as an MMO. It's massive, it's multiplayer, and it's online. Right? By those definitions alone, it is an MMO. Would I consider this hardcore? No. Never. Did Matt? No. Why? There's reasons. There's fucking reasons. And if anybody wants to challenge that whole premise, here's my recommendation. Go to another game, like, I don't know. I don't like Activision, but go to World of Warcraft and play Endgame there. Well, not now, but vanilla. Go to vanilla. Go to classic. Go play Burning Crusades right now. Go get your keys to Curzon. Take people in there. Fucking go do Nax. Go do fucking AQ. You know, fuck the mount farming. Just go into Karazhan for 6 hours and tell me, oh, it's on par with ESO. Spare me. MC, man. I remember when that launched. It was like, oh, fuck. We thought we were all ready. We weren't fucking ready. Week in, week out. Progress. Piece by piece by piece. Literally. EQ1, I mean, that was, you know, shit. We used to, it was open. They didn't have instance base back then. And shit. Just farming for gear and fighting against other guilds to get gear because the raids were open was a bitch. Alright? Pain in the ass. So, I honestly, once again, man, you know, do I make fun of the meta? All the time. Every fucking day. They're like, we make fun of you. Like, okay, you know, how many MMOs are under your belt? What companies have you tested for? I'm just kind of curious. You know, I've done it all from conception up on a lot of games, except Blizzard. I never did shit for Blizzard. So. Like me doing these normals, man. You know, would I like to be in vet? Yeah, sure. But there's no reward incentivizing me to do vet over normal. It's the same currency, so why wouldn't I take the faster of the two? You know, makes no sense. Do I think they need to start? I've said, I even looked at the gear sets. And by the way, I'll be playing a video from Mr. Alcost and Nesfax, since his guild members want to go ahead and troll me about what's meta. Like I said, they don't set meta. They don't fucking set meta. They never have. They're fucking copycats. But even Outcast took a look at that new tank set and he's like, ugh. Why? Pointless. Yeah, duh. Actually, yeah, it is. Oh, we could use it on that. It doesn't matter. The time duration, and you're losing the stat boost. When you can put an off tank in friggin' Akaveri Dragon and Sork or friggin' Nightblade and have 100% uptime anyways. Don't ask those dudes to count. Min-maxing my ass. We're min-maxers. You never fucking were. Shut the fuck up. It's another thing. I have to fucking just chill, man. My old age, I'm old as fuck. I'm tired. You know, I paid my dues in other games. What was pointless. That was the thing that really pissed me off. After all the years and all the bullshit and all the frustration and all the agony, I realized it was all for nothing. Yeah, I remember when we did this. Who gives a shit? Unnecessary fucking drama. What it was. So what's my penance? Giving back to this community. Making it accessible. Don't leave me hanging. But it's fun. Just started playing Blackwood. It is. It's fun. I love it, dude. I love what Zoss does. I'm never gonna take that away. That's why I'm glad you guys asked me to come back, honestly, because I mean it could get better, a lot of things, but I think it's a start in the right direction. I think it's a good time to come back. But as like you guys all know, my fight with the elite has been real in this game. You know, it's been real. Like I said, there's challenges in this game. They offer challenges, both single player and group. And I think that's important in any game. In any game. But what these guys what Matt and them did in the team, they realized there was no linear progression. So they said to themselves, you know, it's all about accessibility, but yet rewarding those. So when Perfected Gear came out, it kind of like, oh, fuck, you know? I mean, back in early days, man, VR trials were a bitch. That was the challenge set. And then all of a sudden they put the VR system in. People were exploiting trials. They could literally take a low-level person and literally reduce all the trial mobs down to whatever, and you could get your gold. I was not involved in on that because I was like, no, because that's like exploiting, man. Like, I'm not going to have my account banded for pulling off some bullshit like that. There's just no way, no how. No, I'm not doing that. So I'm like, that's a whole level of bullshit. No, I wasn't in on that. So, the biggest thing about it is, though, I think the game has definitely improved. It's fun. It has something for everybody. It does. You know, both, you know, casual or hardcore. But people try to make it toxic, and they say, well, I couldn't even say really hardcore, but for people who want something more, you know, challenging, I should say. But like I said, man, if you guys want to, if they want to argue with me, these trolls and these little sad individuals, go play classic World of Warcraft, get in and right from the rep, right? And then get your keys to Karazhan, right? You don't have to worry about gear progression. All the gear, well, that gear literally trashed my Nax gear. It trashed it. The green drops are trashing my legendaries. So you don't even have to worry. All you have to do, literally, is do level up, go into your dungeons, get your blue gear, get your hit up there, and then unlock your keys to Karazhan. And then when you unlock your keys to Karazhan, that's the raid. Go in there. And then come back here and tell me you're hardcore in ESO. I'll wait.
Comrade, a word.
And trust me, you're not going to pick a warrior tank during that update. That was some bullshit. Finding out my warrior was completely useless during that update. I mean, as far as endgame. Due to resistance.
Right.
Not because of my taunts or whatever else or my debuffs. It's when my warrior tank got benched.
Take pride in your work, I always say.
So. Yeah, it's great. It's fun. I'm telling you, man. You guys will have a blast. And then you can come back here and tell me about your first 6-hour experience in that raid. Then come back here. And then when you only get like 5 pieces of gear, come back here and cry to me. And you have to split it. You have to divvy it against your entire raid group. Don't worry. Tanks get priority. So do healers. On those pieces all the time. Everybody else, cutthroat. People bitching, whining, even if they whatever. No matter how fair you try to make it, someone's going to bitch. All day long. So, that's why I left. Drama. That's why I walked away from those MMOs. I wanted something more laid back. And I was like, look at this game, man. I could play any race, any class could play any role. That's cool. No, they can't. Oh, my God.
You look
This is BIS. Do you know what that definition means? Like in Final Fantasy, your BIS is literally your relic weapons. Because it can't be duplicated. Those stats cannot be duplicated. It's not a part of my set progression. It's BIS because I have to work and earn it to get my best stats. It cannot be replicated. That's a slotted item, 1 slot, no bonuses associated with that one item that stands out. That's a best in slot. And I hope you guys know other MMOers make fun of ESO players when they say dumb shit like that. It's best in slot. They don't know what best in slot is. Wait a minute, they can farm their trial sets in less than a week? I mean, come on, man. You guys look like jackasses. It's fun. Have fun. God, have fun. Yes, it's good to always progress. Yes, it's always good to deal damage. Yes, it's always good. It's always good. Yes, there are some things that could be better in certain classes in different roles. I totally agree. But it doesn't stop you from completing the fucking content. Somebody actually posted on the forums, hell, we got through the first boss naked in a trial. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Where's my tank? I'm about to kick his ass. Like people arguing with me about the dumbest shit that's mostly true. I'm like, what the fuck are you all on, man?
You'll always use more corpses. Souls of the dead arise and kill these interlopers. Tormented souls of the dead arise and kill these interlopers.
Well, hi. Like I said, do the content. Everybody's got different skill levels. Make it accessible. They've done it everything. You know what I'm saying? They just... ZOS should be proud of what they've accomplished. In my opinion. I mean, yes, their servers suck nuts. Yes, it gets frustrating when they ignore, you know, the consumers. Every game company does it though, whatever. Activision's probably the worst. Who are you? It's going to be the next line. Uh-oh. I hate when this happens. I can't do shit. Well, these idiots started the fight. Give it a second. Thank you. I know, heaven forbid. Oh my god! We've been playing a casual game for 7 years? Maybe. are you? I'm glad you got Blackwood, Dave. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I like the world. I just wish there was more creatures in it.
I was just burn it. To the sun.
Damn it.
Time for a workout.
There will be no place for rabble like you in the Pelingare's cruel way rest.
There's your proof, Master Pelingare.
All right.
Children responsible for this madness.
No. No. Phantasy Star New Gen is now an MMO, 32 player versus one boss. Whoa! No more 4-man dungeons unless you play PSO2. Same client. You just picked the game you want to play. Dude, for real? Can you show us how much stronger your builds are by calculating the values side by side? I'd really be interested in how much stronger your builds are, especially on DPS. Okay, Newt. First off, I build my builds because I don't follow other people. 2, I don't try to get toxic and say my builds are better. Okay? This is my motto. Whatever build you like, whatever gets you through content, roll with it. I do my own thing. I provide it for the players. If they want to use it, they can. If they don't have to. I also try to make my builds as accessible as possible. So that's what I do. So don't be toxic in here. That shit'll get you smacked backwards. But people don't rag on my builds typically because Like one player on the forums a couple years ago was like, I don't know why you guys rag on Mystic. He's less than 2% than some of these builds. And it's accessible. And I always tell people, be careful. The people I cater to or whatever, but my builds, usually I'll say what they're made for, if you can roll them in trial or not. And most of my content, I clear. I have no problem clearing content if I set myself out to do it. Question of it is, do I want the gear in there? I'm not a fluff person. I never give a fuck about fluff. Only thing I give a shit about is the gear and how much content can I clear with it and why do I want to clear the content. Back in the past, it was always about the monster sets. What you could do with different applications. So for me, when DLCs came out, even if I didn't like any of the gear sets in a dungeon, I always wanted the monster set. Why? Because I usually could build around it for PvE or PvP. Utilize the set. That's why I liked, and I always said there should be trial monster sets to incentivize trials more. Back in the day, I wore no trial set. Even in trials as DPS, mag DPS, I didn't roll trial sets. Even 3-piece when it was a 5-3-1 configuration or 5-3-2. I want to say 5-3-2. I never wore trial sets. I didn't. When people wore the 3-piece stupid thing for the Slayer, I was like, that doesn't beat scaling. And now people understand that. People are walking away from trial sets as DPS. Why? Scale factor. It's stat. I already said this is a stat meta, if you want to call it a meta. But it's all about statting. It always has been, really. When you take a look at it, every game comes back down to what? Stat values. That's about it. But, rotation is key. Right. Different sets can be viable, but perfected gear will pull ahead. Right. Yes. Exactly. But other builds can be viable, and that is what people like Mystic and Zai's always said. Right. Absolutely. Amen, Dave. Amen. And that's what it is. It's for me, I provide content for average players to say, okay, I'm going to put this together for you. And if you can get the rotation down, it's going to perform in every content across the board. Whether or not you take it to the next level is your choice. Now, I don't go by BIS or anything because values can be made up because of the law of diminishing returns. Now, the mythic items stand apart because those values cannot be replicated. So from a traditional standpoint, if a value cannot be replicated and it stands up on its own, that is what we refer to in the MMOs. You think ESO is an MMO? I just saw that. Yeah, I think it is an MMO. It completely fits all the, other shit, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, that's why I've always said, if you cannot replicate a value, right, and it stands by itself, it is, in its definition, a best in slot. Right? And in this game, that depends on the configuration. But that's what I said, I'm always like, this is whatever. I'm never going to say what things are and aren't from, my perspective. I'm going to say what it is and isn't from what? An MMO perspective. I mean, really, like literally, I used to try to get my friends to play this game, and they're like, why? Why? I'm like, it's fun. Yeah, well, doesn't mean it's, like, good. I'm like, well, and here was my argument. So you're telling me, this was my argument, you want to keep playing a linear game, get your legendary gear, work fucking hours in raids, only to have it replaced by the first green drop? Well, at least it's progressive. That would be their rebuttal. I'm like, it makes no sense. We wasted X amount of time for no end. There's no end to it. It just keeps, the cap ceiling just keeps rising. I did that for 12 plus years. God, it was just so frustrating. And then everybody getting the same arguments about the same shit. It's like, oh no, man. That's what it was. it just kept just doing the same fucking shit. So annoying. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when I put my builds together, I don't want to replicate anything that's been done. But I have to make sure my numbers, my character sheet, and all of my numbers look good. I'm also aware of diminishing returns, which the meta players keep ignoring math and whatever. And they're dependent, like I said, they're dependent. They didn't even know their fucking critical value raises to base. By base. That's a fundamental. No hardcore MMOer, no fucking hardcore MMOer would ever say stack 100% crit. Never. Never. Fucking never. No fucking real elitist would tell anybody stack 100% crit. It would never fucking happen, only in ESO. Why? Because this game is so fucking just back-asswards. The players ignored fundamentals. It's like, people are like, well, how did you do that? How do you... Math. Math is how I did it. Math. I'm wearing medium armor with almost 20k resistance. How'd you pull that off? Math, motherfuckers. Fundamentals. Fuck me. People still rolling impen. Like, I see these build videos. They're like, oh, we're rolling impen. I'm like, that is fucking nasty. My dude and me, as soon as we saw those values, we 86 that shit real quick. We're like, dude, did you see what they fucking did? And he's like, dude, they ripped it apart. I'm like, they want people to die. Holy shit balls. Shit kebabs. But did you see any other content creators address it? No. No, they didn't. They didn't know how. What? Fundamentally flawed. That's why I said go to these other MMOs, plug in, spend X amount of time in those fucking raids, man. Then come back here and say you're hardcore. I'm hardcore. After that, you'll be like, nah, man, I'm good. I spent my entire weekend in a raid. What? Yeah. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did, dude. My whole weekend was Mountain Dew binging and spending it in that raid. With a shitload of people. And all bitching constantly. What? Yeah. That doesn't sound like fun. That was hell, dude. Did you get a piece? I didn't even get one piece of gear. What? You did all that for nothing? Welcome to the life. Welcome to the fucking life. Kills me. Motherfuckers kill me. But in my honest opinion, this is still an MMO. It's casual. It's got challenges, but it's accessible. You know, and here's my counter argument for anything. Okay, and I would say this: I don't necessarily think that ZOS should necessarily give as much accessibility to maybe more casual players, because I feel like certain content can be cleared by a number of different methods. I feel like there should be incentive for the players who want to be a little more hardcore. You know, if you without incentive, well, right? You come to this portion of like, why am I doing it? If it's not incentivized, like Dave said, that's what Perfected Gear offers: a little extra incentive. Right? And that's what it is. Except this last shit, I don't even know what ZOS was on, man. I would have been pissed. I would have been lightweight, a little bit more mad about some of these sets. Now, I've always appreciated what the developers try to do for the tank sets, but let's be practical. Majority of the sets with the exception of Yokelin, are not ever being utilized by tanks. Even though the mitigation's pretty decent. But they're not being utilized. Why? Because this you know, are, you know, people in this game don't want mitigation because, let's be honest, there's not enough damage to justify it. Now, let me be honest with you from a past tank experience. You try to pull off DPS as a tank in any other MMO in a raid, you're going to get fucking lit. The amount of mitigation you need in some raids is unbearable. It is ungodly. But ZOS never, ever, ever made it hard enough to justify tanks to use those sets to mitigate. Truth. It's truth. You might not like it, but why did they develop the sets? They tried to promote those tank sets. They tried to promote these other sets, but nobody implemented them. Why? Because the damage being dealt was a joke for the tank. Hell, when I came here, fucking tanks were rolling 25k health. They didn't even understand mitigation. They didn't even understand basic mitigation. Now it's progressed, but let's be real. You go back 3-4 years, let's go back 4 years ago and watch those builds. It's a fucking shit show. The player base has evolved to understand how mitigation now works and how diminishing returns, well, some diminishing returns apply. But when it comes down to it, they've never been hardcore. They were never hardcore because they were never put in a hardcore. I swear to God, I just fucked up.
They have captured the point.
Why did I hit the wrong one? Okay. Whatever. Just be dungeons. But they've never been implemented. They've never been literally forced in a hardcore MMO scenario. They've never been forced to say, you know what? If I don't take this set, the next raid or the next trial that comes out, I'm going to get chewed up. Because that damage coming in is going to be crazy high. But in a traditional MMO, that's the reality. That is the reality. That's why you do it. Because the next installment is that much harder. So you are dependent on that previous set to just get through a few bosses. That is the reality of the situation. Like I said, this game's open-ended. It's not linear. It never has been a linear game. So my whole job as a content creator is to do what? Provide the alternative solutions for players who want to play a different way. You want to be a Sork healer? I got you. You want a DK healer? I got you. You want to do Sork tank? I got you. You want a build that like has multi-function and still get you to the end game? I got you. That's what my whole shit's been about. Every fucking day. And like Dave said, rotation is always the key. Like right now, I'm learning Stam. I've always put Stam builds together, but for me playing it, learning follow-ups and rotation, this is a better challenge for me. So, I'm setting up the challenge. I went into Maelstrom. That Maelstrom took one Stam Tomb ever in my life in there. And that was the couple days before. Never been in there with a Stam Tomb. Never. And I beat it on my Stam Sork the first time. But people are like, you can't do it. What makes you think I couldn't? What makes you think I could never do it? The only thing it's always been about for me is doing what? Providing content.
Let's get in the fight.
Providing solutions for players who don't necessarily like that content, don't want to do it, or they're just not even capable of it. That's fine. I don't care. Like I said, there's a lot of things when I took a look at the numbers, I always kept static. I never wanted any of that shit. Most of that shit was garbage. It was garbage. I mean, it was cool, but in a static value, people are going to argue with me now about it. But now, what's everybody doing? I said procs were going to go. I said that weeks prior. And I have the videos to prove it. Before anybody, everybody's like, we're going to keep ours on. We're going to, no, you're not. You're not. You're not. It was never going to happen. Never going to happen. Never. Especially not just the, the scaling factor that, took mag out of procs, but basically the stat boost. Because I always said it comes back to what? Your character sheet. See, that's why I didn't roll. That's why I never rolled majority of weapons. Because guess what? At the end of the day, it fucked with my stats. And I was losing on every ability to justify one effect. And that was something I was willing to do. Oh. Anybody want to get this shit? Something's got us in combat. Like I said, the game's fun. Have fun. It's fun. There's challenges. Should definitely be fun. Was it ever on the level of most games? No. Should it be? No. Why? Why should it? Final Fantasy, like, honestly,
You certainly fought.
Final Fantasy, in my opinion, is a great game. A little grindy, but, very story driven. It sets itself apart from its competitors, too. It's got challenges as well, but, I don't have to spend, once again, long durated time in my end game, And I think at the end of the day, the more players you are going to retain are based on what? Accessibility. World of Warcraft at the time, met players' expectations because it was the hardcore of hardcore. A lot of people don't like the mechanics, I mean, turn-based mechanics isn't for everybody. Rift was supposed to be its successor, but by its standards, it literally cut the raids down in half. So, in Rift, you could do a raid and, start to finish, depending on which raid, to maybe an hour and a half, if it was a small one, larger scale, 2 to 3 hours. And for hardcore MMOers, that was completely unacceptable, no matter how good the mechanics was. It just, because why? Because Rift didn't spend a lot of time making, now Hammer Neo did take a while. I mean, I think on the average you would get spend about 4 hours in Hammer Nail on the average, a complete run through. But the thing about it was that was unacceptable, to a hardcore MMOer. Oh hell no! For me, it was very much refreshing. I got tired of spending, hours and days, through the grind wheel, man. It got monotonous, I mean, people could say all they want. Oh, it was a blast. To whom? I just spent months grinding my whole progression. Oh my god. I think you have to do that one. If I'm not mistaken. What a bunch. These guys are in their hundreds. What the fuck, yo? Wow. Yeah, man. See, that's the thing. That's why I once again I keep laughing. Not every race can play. Not every class can play every role. Devs, yes, they can. There's no diminishing returns. Yes, there is. This is we're elite players. Matt, no, you're not. Burn. There you go. Anyways. I think at the end of the day, you know, this game will have a very memorable place in many people's, you know, gaming experience. It's got years to go, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think at the end of the day, when the people who really are toxic, have a reality check, I think they'll come to realize it was unnecessary. Because even Outcast, I think, said, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't really matter what you do. You know, up until, you know, endgame, then certain things matter, you know, for trials, configurations, whatever else. But that's like the hardest mode of the hardest mode, and you know, whatever have you. But most of the setups you can just you can run different setups and clear content. We did it before. That's what, like, people were pushing this kilt, and you know, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. It is. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm not gonna roll it. You can't keep the stacks up all the time due to mechanics. It's designed to do that. So for me, it's not justified. I mean, you know, I would, like I said, I'd rather have much more of a top end. Now, in certain scenarios, that will carry a little bit better value for you. So there's no doubt. I've always said that. You know, yeah, you know, from a traditional standpoint, yeah, you would call this a BIS item for sure. It can't be replicated, even if you can't keep the 100 stacks. But when you hit those points, that value's accelerated considerably. I've seen it all in this game. Remember when sorcerers were running Burning Spellweave? That was probably the most fucking hilarious days of my life. I've seen it all. I've seen the meta try to dictate what was when it wasn't, time and time again. And we'll do a little special for Neff. Or actually, I just recommend go seeing Outcast's patch notes review and go look at Neff's, you know, about his tank thing. Let's leave it off with that. Because Outcast isn't agreeing, and oh my god, isn't he the god? Isn't he the god of this game? So, wait a minute. So, if one of the top end raiding guilds conflict with the god, then who's wrong? What is the meta, then? Who dictates it? The players who are willing to accept it. What another person says. That's it.
Rise, minions. Stop before it's too late.
Thought I would be more satisfied at his death. In time.
All right.
Beside myself.
I'm burning.
I believe you've won. I didn't expect that.
But anyways, yeah. So like I said, not my words. These were not my words. Planted into Matt's, whatever. He came out with it. He said it.
You are Gilrain of the Whisper Grove, are you?
What the fuck? I was still playing him after I left. What? Alright. Crazy. I just thought it was fortuitous, right? I was like, you know, it's kind of interesting. I disagree with Matt about the whole MMO thing because it is online. It is a massive game and it's multiplayer. So I disagree. From those 3 points, it is an MMO. But is it hardcore? Well, the director doesn't seem to think so. Challenging, yeah. Has challenges, yes. On par with more traditional MMOs? Never was. Have fun. Thanks, Dave, for stopping in. Peace.